Good morning and welcome to the 2023 Impact Forum. I'm Lynn Redleaf, and on behalf of the Constellation Fund and my fellow board members, thank you for making the time to tune in for what is Constellation's wonkiest event of the year. Today's program will be no exception as we spend an hour together exploring the evidence behind Constellation's metric-driven approach to fighting poverty in the Twin Cities. It was this wonkiness and its potential to advance our community's approach to giving that initially drew me to Constellation. I live in a quantitative household. My husband, Andy, has 2 degrees in math and was planning to pursue his PhD, but decided on a career in finance. Yet, I hadn't seen the power of numbers be fully harnessed by philanthropy in our community. In my experience, this has been true not only for individual donors who are not equipped to bolster their personal giving with in-depth quantitative analysis, but also for institutional funders, which haven't followed their for-profit counterparts in building modern analytical tools to inform their decisions. As a result, our family's foundation had traditionally foregone donations through federated giving models, electing instead to make significant direct investments into organizations with which we perform our own analysis. But, as has been the case for a growing number of donors across our community, Constellation's approach has also pushed me to think differently. And since joining on as a founding member of the board of directors in 2018, I have seen firsthand what makes this work truly different. As a trustee, I've been privy to an up-close look at the details behind Constellation's unique evidence-driven approach, some of which we'll be diving into today. Here's what I can tell you. The Constellation Fund is as advertised. The sophistication and attention to detail of Constellation's work is unlike anything I have seen in philanthropy, expertly built to power generosity with objective insights in order to help maximize lifetime impact. What's more, it's an organization that is never satisfied, driven by a relentless pursuit of self-improvement that has both expanded and refined its evidence-driven work at a remarkable pace. To be clear, none of this is to suggest that Constellation has all of the answers. As we will explore today, there is so much more that we wish we knew about the best approaches to fighting poverty in our community. But there is also a remarkable amount of information at our fingertips that, if harnessed effectively, can help advance our understanding and deepen the impact of our investments into the community we all call home. This is the work of the Constellation Fund. And that work is just getting started. Since launching in 2018, Constellation has built over 230 metrics, each of which is expertly crafted to measure the long-term impact of a specific type of poverty-fighting intervention, and all of which are customized to the specifics of each organization up for evaluation. Alongside careful qualitative analysis, this powerful quantitative toolkit has led Constellation to a portfolio of nearly 30 nonprofit organizations shown by evidence to be creating transformational impact in our community. You will have a chance to hear from 2 of those remarkable organizations today, and you will also be among the first to hear about a groundbreaking new research arm that Constellation is launching to uncover even more evidence about what is working best in the fight against poverty in the Twin Cities. If this work sounds ambitious, it should, because it is, and because it's needed. Just as our renowned corporate sector spent decades investing in a modern information tools to improve the bottom line, it is time for our philanthropic sector to update its toolkit to help deepen our impact. For this reason and more, our family foundation has chosen to invest in Constellation's work at a significant level that matches that ambition and need. We do so because of our confidence in this work and our concern for our neighbors experiencing poverty, each of whom deserves the opportunity to break the cycle once and for all. And we do so with the belief that each of us has to act with a sense of urgency by putting all that we can on the line for this community. I invite each of you to do the same and to use Constellation's powerful toolkit to help guide that generosity. Because when you give to Constellation, you are really giving through Constellation, with every dollar powered with the best available tools and information to help create the lasting impacts that we all seek. Now, let's dive a bit deeper into the details behind that powerful toolkit. To begin, I'll turn it over to one of Constellation's talented team members to shine some light on how the organization thinks about evidence.
At the Constellation Fund, our sole focus is on effectively fighting poverty in the Twin Cities. Every dollar from our growing community of generous donors goes to impactful nonprofits. Because we believe smart philanthropy is kind philanthropy, we go to great lengths to use the best available evidence in our funding decisions. But evidence comes in many forms, so how can we be confident in the evidence that we use? Let's take a moment to explore the world of evidence and how our team navigates it. At Constellation, we draw from numerous sources of quantitative information to conduct our metric-driven evaluations. This includes local demographic information, as well as program data from the nonprofits themselves. When using evidence, we work to understand not just the outputs of an organization, such as how many people were served, but also, importantly, the outcomes that those outputs produce. How did the lives of those individuals change for the better? This means identifying reliable information that can tell us how much better off a participant is as a direct result of a certain program. Ideally, this evidence would be high-quality, long-term outcome data from the nonprofit. But this type of data is hard to come by, which is something that we at Constellation are working to change. In the meantime, we turn to carefully selected evaluations and studies that can help us reasonably estimate those outcomes. Not every existing evaluation or study makes the cut. We consider nuances in the quality of the evidence. Do the underlying studies employ rigorous methods? How well do the programs in the research match the program we're evaluating? Is there a clear and direct causal link from the program to the outcomes? We prioritize evidence with strong research design, especially those using randomized or quasi-experimental methods. In a randomized controlled trial, participants are randomly split into two groups, with one group receiving some programming while the other group doesn't. Sometimes moral or practical concerns prevent researchers from fully randomizing participation. This is where quasi-experimental studies come in. They use other means to try to ensure that the only difference between groups is program participation. In all cases, our impact team takes care to select the most rigorous study designs and works hard to find studies that closely match the programs we are evaluating. At that point, we often average the findings from many studies in order to incorporate the most likely outcome into our analysis. By now, you might be asking yourself, why does this matter? As long as we're using evidence, we're doing our best, right? Good question, so let's dig deeper. Imagine that we've completed our analysis for 4 programs operating in each of Constellation's main impact areas: education, employment, health, and housing. By this point, we've built and applied all of our relevant metrics to create benefit-cost ratios for each of these programs. These ratios allow us to compare the expected poverty-fighting impact of each organization's activities for every dollar spent. And here they are. It appears that all of these organizations are creating a meaningful impact in our community. But to fully understand these findings, we must first understand the types of evidence driving each of our analyses. Let's say that the best available evidence about the impact of the education program came from a well-crafted quasi-experimental study. The program being studied is similar to the one we're evaluating, but there are some key differences that need to be taken into consideration. Perhaps the age range of the participants in the study does not map neatly onto the ages of the young people served by this program. For the employment program, let's say that our evidence comes from a randomized controlled trial on the actual job training program being implemented by this nonprofit. That is ideal. For the health organization, our evidence came from averaging the outcomes of several different studies on numerous similar initiatives, which we call a meta-analysis. The programs studied are a good match to our program. However, our program actually provides a handful of additional services which very likely have some additional benefit that we need to consider. And lastly, for the housing intervention, say we had to piece together a few different sources of evidence to find a direct link between the program being evaluated and its projected impact. In the absence of clearer causal evidence, we had to make some assumptions that have the potential to be inflating the projected impact. We make careful note of these differences in the quality and applicability of the available evidence. This is what we call strength of evidence. Deeply understanding the evidence means that we have done the best we can to understand not only the significant poverty-fighting potential of these programs, but also the subtleties of and limitations to the evidence available to assess that potential. It also means that to make a truly informed decision, there are additional pieces of context to consider. Qualitative aspects of our evaluation, community dynamics, and evidence we weren't able to use in metric creation, all in an effort to understand how quirks in the available evidence might influence our understanding in one direction or another. Going back to the 4 programs in our example, each evaluation has its strengths and weaknesses. While the employment program has the lowest projected impact of the group, a 3-to-1 return on investment is still a significant impact, and our confidence in the evidence behind that impact is very high. Conversely, the strength of evidence is lowest for the housing program, but with a remarkable 8-to-1 benefit-cost ratio, it might represent an investment worth making. Depending on the results of our qualitative analysis, Constellation may decide to fund each of these 4 organizations, which collectively project to turn every dollar invested into over $5 of lifetime health and income improvements for those experiencing poverty in our community. Our team would then update each evaluation annually, taking great care to incorporate any new evidence that could further our understanding of the programs and their outcomes into our metrics. All of these intentional steps, the gathering and contextualizing of evidence, the consideration of the quantitative and the qualitative, the continual search for new and better insights, will have played a valuable part of what we at Constellation consider to be evidence-driven philanthropy. We've all seen those movies where a clever scientist makes a singular breakthrough that solves the problem and saves the day. Unfortunately, work like ours will never be that simple. There are no shortcuts and few easy answers. The good news is there is an abundance of information available to inform our giving, with countless committed professionals leading a wide range of poverty-fighting efforts and brilliant data scientists and researchers uncovering new evidence about what works best. In fact, there's so much information available that none of us is capable of remembering it all, let alone applying it effectively to philanthropic decisions. That's why Constellation employs modern analytics to create tailor-made analyses that integrate this growing wealth of evidence into our decision-making process. We believe that harnessing the best of this information is critical to the progress we all seek. We also believe that this diverse array of information needs to be understood in its appropriate context and used with humility and care to make the best decisions to meet our mission of effectively fighting poverty in the Twin Cities. And here at Constellation, that's what we're all about.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amal Kareem, and I'm a Senior Impact Officer at the Constellation Fund. Echoing Lynn, we thank you for joining us today. It is my honor to introduce you to 2 incredible leaders whom I will be speaking with today as we dive into some of the work around evidence in our evaluations. First is Kevin Robinson, co-founder and executive director of 30,000 Feet.
Hey, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, Kevin. And our second panelist is Shaquila Merle, Social Work Unit Supervisor at Teen Hope, a program of Hennepin County. Hi, Shaquila.
Hello, I'm happy to be here as well. Teen Hope is proud to be a grantee and partner with the Constellation Fund.
Awesome. Thanks you for both of your time today. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to be diving into some of the various evidence that Constellation Fund has used in our bringing these 2 programs' outcomes to life. More specifically, we'll be using data and evidence and looking at how those came into play and how we estimated these programs' benefit cost ratios, or BCRs, with our process. I'm going to start with Kevin. First, help ground our audience in who you are and what is the program that you lead. Can you tell us a little bit? Who are you? And a little bit about 30,000 feet. How did you get started? And what inspired you to do this work?
Yeah, so I got 30,000 feet, got started in 2013 by me and Vanessa Young. We seen a great need in our community that was not being met. So we just started having conversations with community members, parents, around different needs that they see in the community to make sure we center a community in all our conversations and our work that we want to do. And so after we had conversation with parents, educators, community members, and other stakeholders, me and Vanessa had started 30,000 Feet. This is a volunteer type of organization to meet the need. We ended up our first program was around arts education, and parents and other stakeholders and different things of that nature told us that culture affirming type of programming was something they was interested in and having their young people participating in. So that's been a key element of our program. And then now recently we started a Tech Geek program for young people who want to explore opportunities in the tech field and via computing jobs, and also young people who just had contact or injustice involved.
Awesome, Kevin. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to definitely dive into some more of those program elements you talked about. But for Shakila, same question for you. Tell us a little bit about kind of maybe what brought you to this work, or what is the work that Teen Hope does to serve young people in our community?
Yeah, well, hello. Thanks for the introduction as well. I am Shankila, and I am a social work unit supervisor for Teen Hope. So I supervise all of the social workers on the team who do direct service with our clients. Teen Hope started in 2012 as a home visiting program. It was really piloted and mirrored from a program in Ramsey County. Our youth are pregnant and parenting under the age of 20 at the time of their application or when they come into our program, and they're in pursuit of their high school diploma or their GED. In 2012, we did see within the county, we've seen an increase in teen pregnancy and a decrease in graduation rates. So taking that program in Ramsey County, we thought that we would start the home visiting program here for our participants. They do receive MPIP benefits, which is a Minnesota Family Investment Program, which is essentially the state's welfare program. So it supports our youth and their families, or parents and their families. And this is best example by one of my clients, or a previous client of mine. She came into our program pregnant. She was working with a public health nurse. And when I became involved, I've helped her manage her benefits within the county and helped her enroll in school. So we picked a high school that was a good fit for her in her life. She was a little bit over age and under credit, which is a common situation for a lot of our participants in our program. And then when she became pregnant with her second child, she thought it would be a better idea to get her GED. And we do have a program, our Pathways program, where we provide on-site tutoring and GED instruction. So she finished that. We were able to get her graduated with her GED, and she was also connected to a paid internship, which we have on site as well. And through that internship, she was able to become a medical assistant and get permanent employment within the hospital. So that's kind of the cycle of, in a common situation for a lot of our participants that come into the program. It's really a one-stop shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's certainly something that makes the program unique and knitting together all these services. We'll talk a little bit about that, but love the illustration of how one person can find all that kind of support kind of in one place, especially in a kind of vulnerable time in their life. So I really appreciate that. Thanks. We're going to switch back to Kevin. Kevin, can you tell us now, so 30,000 feet has been around for coming up on 10 years. And I'm curious, what are some of the things that, like, if someone were to walk into a 30,000 feet program right now, like, what would they see? What's going on? today in your program that you can share with us?
Yeah, and I think we do a lot of our work on the east side of St. Paul. I don't know if I
Mm.
mentioned that or not. I just want to make that um, this emphasis. That's
Yes, a
where we
lot of
do
East
our
Side
work at.
pride, I know, in your
A lot
team.
of East Side pride, a lot of East Side pride. I think on any given day when you walk in to our program, we have high expectations for all the young people who walk through the door. So you would definitely see that. You will see staff that's dedicated, and on different days, you're going to see different programs. You're going to see 2 days out of the week. You're going to see the arts literacy that's
Hmm.
focused on like culture affirming literacy type of support that we provide for young people who are behind in literacy and struggling to learn how to read. Also, you're going to see um, critical work around personal development, around cultural identity and different things like that, and more of communal feel and holding each other accountable via
Yeah.
positive peer pressure amongst each other. And then for high school students, we got the coding program where the goal is to get the young people a coding certificate. Hopefully, they get an internship at a local tech company, and then and then would provide opportunities for young people to participate who've been just as involved.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll again, so thank you for that. And congratulations on making it, for being a really grassroots driven, community led organization. And I know you've got some exciting developments that I'm sure we'll talk about later on in our conversation. So I want to spend a little time now that we have some grounding in what are these programs doing and who are they serving. I want to make sure that we'll think forward a little bit too, also for Teen Hope. Shaquila, it sounds like you're really successful as a unique combination of services, as we've said. Can you share a little bit about what's next for the program? There's been some changes. There's some exciting developments. What do you see as being next?
Yeah, so our program this year recently moved to Hennepin County.
Yeah.
Uh, this is something new for us, but we're really excited about the new opportunities that we have. We do believe that we'll be able to connect our clients to a broader resource with resources, and then also um, the ability to move forward some policies.
Hmm.
We've
I,
really seen benefits. Oh, sorry.
I just want to clarify for our audience that you were already working in Hennepin County and working with clients there, and that's still your area. But now your program is actually being administered by the county as an entity itself, right? Like the government agency of the county. So just wanted to clarify that for
Yes.
folks. Yeah.
Yes, we were contracted, but now we are a part of the county.
Yeah.
So that opens us up to so many more resources, and with the ability for our clients to get their cases approved a little bit faster.
Mhm.
We do have better communication with some of the other departments, like the economic assistance team and childcare and things of that nature. So that really helps things move a little bit faster for our clients, which we're really really excited about. We've seen that a lot of our like waivers and pilots have
Mhm.
really been beneficial. For example, we've had presumptive eligibility for our clients in with childcare. So this means that for our homeless youth, they have an additional 3 months to get the documentation in for to get their case approved, but it's automatically approved. And during that time, we work with them to get those
Mhm.
documents in, and that really kind of helps give them a better runway at getting things started. So this is helpful for enrolling in school, seeking a job, whatever it may be. And then also we're working on a pilot right now where we're able to get our clients approved as well, and then also give them the ability to collect those benefits without getting those documentation in as well. And
Mhm.
then we're looking to, while they're working, to not have their benefits count against them, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and extend that age for that. So that's something that we're really working towards. And then we've seen that these policy changes and this work really makes a difference. For example, we've seen uh, the amount of MPIP increase $100, and that was the first time in 30 years.
Like
So
the monthly amount.
yes, the monthly amount increased by $100, which is very significant for our clients. So that kind of policy work we've seen really be beneficial. So, and we're really working on a lot of those waivers and pilot programs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think what I didn't realize before I started working with Teen Hope was how truly complicated and how many hoops there are to jump through for people just to access these benefits. And so I think that learning about things like presumptive eligibility, which you just talked about, like kind of fast tracking it so that especially young people who might have a hard time tracking down all of those documents can get the assistance they need while still working on pulling together those that documentation, I think makes a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense to me when I first heard about it. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the
Yeah.
advocacy you've done on that front. We're gonna now start to talk a little bit about how Constellation calculates and then brings to life all of the work that we've already started talking about here today. We're going to talk about how these two organizations and Constellation used evidence, different forms of evidence. We've used evidence from the programs themselves. We've used evidence from outside research, and we've used evidence from community. And so we're going to talk a little bit about all of these. So, Shaquila, as you just stated, you have a very holistic approach that knits together services. In Teen Hope, we've got the home visiting, there's education support, there's case management, there's material resource needs that are met. So there's a lot of different ways that Teen Hope's plugging in. Which made evaluating the work kind of exciting and challenging because there was just a lot of pieces. In Teen Hope's evaluation, we ended up using 25 metrics and a combination of evidence from peer-reviewed papers that meet the threshold of our survey design, just like what Sam talked about earlier in the video that we saw. We also use data reported by the program itself. Y'all keep a lot of data, I know, and then try to track as much as you can. I feel like probably a lot of the day is your case managers are inputting data. Kevin's nodding. Like, do you feel like half your day is data tracking?
Yes.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about two ways that we incorporated evidence for Teen Hope's evaluation. One is our more common method of metric construction. And then the second one we'll talk about is a little bit different, a different kind of way that we'll use evidence. So our more for traditional one, we'll start there. So Teen Hope has public health nurses that work with parenting youth as home visitors. And we at Constellation have a toolkit of home visiting metrics already, but we're always trying to build that out. We used a metric to look at what are the health benefits associated with home visiting. And we saw that there was evidence for both how that health improvements accrue for mothers and then how the health improvements affect children. So the evidence that we use in particular was a federal report on the implementation of a system called a model called the Nurse Family Partnership. This particular study was conducted in Denver. And what makes it one that we felt good about using is that it was a randomized controlled trial. So this is sort of the ideal study design to help us isolate the impact of this intervention. In this report that we used, we looked at different kinds of benefits. So some of them are, again, accruing to mothers and some to children. So in particular, we saw that there was strong evidence for how the mothers experienced reduced maternal depression and reduced domestic violence as a result of this home visiting. For children, we saw strong evidence for the reduced incidence of ADHD diagnoses in later life as a result of these home visits. So I want to acknowledge, are there many other elements of health that could be improved by home visiting? Very possibly. But these are the outcomes that had the strongest evidence that we were able to use. And those are the ones that we used for constructing this metric. So in addition, in a randomized control trial, you always have a control group that receives no home visiting. So in addition to having that control group in this study, this implementation also assigned some families to be visited by a public health or a nurse, and the other families were visited by a paraprofessional, someone with a little bit less training, still trained, but not maybe to the same level of credentialing. The study looked at the different outcomes based on who was delivering the home visiting. And we saw that nurses produced about twice the benefits of the paraprofessionals delivering that same model. So in the case of Teen Hope, we used that higher benefit because they used public health nurses as the professionals conducting the home visits as part of their program. They also have an incredible team of social workers who do a lot of other work around case management, the team that Shaquille actually supervises. But again, I'm looking just at the home visiting piece. And I'm hoping that we'll continue to build out this metric and make it even stronger, because there's probably a meta-analysis that we'll use in the future that looks at nurse-family partnership implementation across even more contexts. And so hopefully that metric will continue to grow. So that was a fairly standard way that Constellation might consider evidence to construct a metric. We're now going to talk a little bit about a different way that we might look at evidence in the case of Teen Hope. So we looked at this in real close partnership with Teen Hope. So I can't take too much credit for coming up with all of this. We've really worked in partnership with the team over there. But first, I need to have Shaquilla explain to us, what is the difference between the work option in MFIP and the education option when we're talking about MFIP benefits?
Yeah, so when participants enroll in MFIP, or they apply for an MFIP, and they, as I mentioned before, don't have their high school diploma or their GED and under the age of 20 at the time of application, they are referred to our program, which is an education option. The differences between the education and the employment or the work option is, while you're in the education option, if you choose to work and are under 20, your income isn't counted against your MFIP benefits. So you get to keep all of you keep your paycheck, and then you also can get your full benefits from MFIP. And then also you get 60 months or 5 years to be on MFIP or collect MFIP. And while you're in our program, your time doesn't start. You use none of your months. So this gives our clients a little bit of more cushion or opportunity to collect, or kind of just save money. And then once they graduate or go to the work option, they have a little longer runway.
Yeah.
And then while you're in the work option, when you turn 20, whether or not they stay with our program or not, their income, if they're working, their income does count. And then once they turn 20, they do start to use their months. So those are
the clock kind of starts then.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. So in this case, what we wanted to do is, so as Shaquilla said, your income gets counted against you if you're in the work option. But if you're in Teen Hope, or in what we'll call the education option, anything you're making doesn't get counted against your benefits. You're actually getting more in financial assistance by being in the education option. And we wanted to know, about how much more are we talking? And we just figured we're not going to go through hundreds of clients' benefits data. That was not something we thought was a great use of time, but we wanted to have a good estimate. So by working with the MFIP team, or the Teen Hope team, we worked with them and the MFIP Benefits Administration team at Hennepin County to do a basic estimate. So let's just say we have one mom who is working and is in the and it has 2 children, and she's eligible for MFIP benefits. Say mom works 20 hours a week, she earns $12.87 an hour. Monthly, she's earning about $1,030. If she was in the work option, her expected cash benefit from MFIP would be about $260 monthly, based on all the formulations and ways that they calculate what you're owed. But that's because, in part, her income that she's earning is counted against how much she's getting in benefits. So her benefits are reduced. But if she was to choose the education option, in this case, Teen Hope, mom would be receiving more like $630 in benefits. She's able to keep more of her benefits while also still working and being in the education option. That works out to about a difference of $370 a month. And we calculated that out to try to figure out how much that would mean for all the clients that Teen Hope serves. But briefly, Shaquilla, can you just share, what does that mean in practice for a client? So we know that it's, in the order of several $100,000 that annually that your clients are getting, but $370 a month more. What does that mean for your clients?
It means the world to our clients. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a significant amount, but we do have a lot of, our participants are clients who are, of age, they're 20, maybe 18, 19, who are independent. They have to maintain an apartment, a job, and attend school. So there's a lot of different, a lot of responsibilities that a lot of our clients take on.
Yeah.
And sometimes that those couple $100 are they have to make a decision whether they want to go to work or if they want to go to school. So I mean, between
Yeah.
keeping these extra couple $100, um, it's able to keep our students in school. And then with having
Yeah.
donors like the Constellation Fund, and helping with supplementing while they are in the education program to help maybe assist with a little bit of rent or whatever it may be. It really makes a difference. And a lot of them have voiced that they would not have graduated if they weren't able to keep that extra income, and remain in school. So it definitely makes a huge difference for our clients.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks, Shakila. I'm going to turn to Kevin now. Kevin, we're going to talk a little bit about the important work that you and your team lead on the east side of St. Paul. You mentioned earlier, you work with young people who might be struggling with literacy, or who might be a little bit behind academically, and working with them to support them. Could you talk a little bit? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we use for 30,000 feet evaluation about 6 metrics to capture what we could from their work. But as we'll uncover, not all benefits are easily monetizable. And in other cases, we are able to really tailor a metric to make it more specific to the population that we're talking about. So first, Kevin, can you share a little bit about how your team thinks about tracking success and progress for the young people in your literacy and personal development? Like, how are you thinking about tracking that, and what does success look like?
Yeah, success look like for us, just having the great data always available to make the best decisions. So we do cognitive personal assessments bi-weekly with the young people,
Mm,
to see where they at, if they're gaining the information or they're learning, they're on track to meet some of the goals that the staff have and we have for them.
mhm.
Far as within the organization. Uh, some of those assessments are art-based assessments, what we call those, where I think it's more from a culture relevant standpoint, where all people don't do well in standardized testing, and so instead of give them a 1 through 10 test, sometimes we might say, "Hey, once you reenact the character in the book," and so different metrics like that, and then also like in knowing that success looks different at different standpoints for each people who coming in the door. So making sure each people get that personalized assessments that fit their needs, and also they get also that we setting goals for them. Each individual comes through our door, and also we use this data that we get from the school. I think the assessment that the teachers do at the school, we think that's
Sure.
very critical data. They're experts, and so we want to make sure we're looking at them, so we're not uh, working with them on nothing that's not, they don't need help on, around literacy and different things of that nature.
Yeah.
And then I think the critical piece I think that we always asking ourselves is about what's the implication if these young people don't know how to read, right?
Yeah.
What's their future
Sure.
outcome, right? What are the job possibilities? What are the college possibilities, right? To have a full and sustaining and healthy life. So we always on the back of our mind. And I think the data and the evidence. I think me and Ma. I think as we talked about this, Ma, as you came over to the site, is like we want to think about like how some of the nuance of the culturally affirming work, like you said,
Yeah.
you were just when we transitioning over to 30,000 feet, is that it's hard to monetize some of that culture affirming work. So as
Yeah.
we go through it, different things of that nature, we want to make sure that how do we talk about the nuances? How do we
Yeah.
evaluate the nuances? And I think another critical piece of Ma, I think that we're not working with these young people for a long time. They live in poverty, so we want to make sure we can assess as much data as we can. Just
Mm.
knowing they're highly mobile, they experience high level of poverty, and so we want to make sure that we make it the most impact as we can in a short amount of time. We might be working with these young individuals and their families.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched on this, Kevin. That's a really great point. Thinking about the timelines, and like sort of what is a realistic timeline for how long you're working with someone before they move. And so, I think that's a really great point. And what you said about that sort of the challenge of monetizing culturally affirming work, that's definitely been, like, for us, it's been a really a challenge. For me, it's been a challenge to figure out how to capture that in our evaluations, because there are so many organizations out there doing that culturally specific work for different cultural communities, and the sometimes lack of robust research around that makes it hard to monetize it. And so I know that that's something that we're hoping that there's going to be more strong research around that, because so many people are doing that work now. I wanted Kevin also to talk a little bit about your, in addition to your after school programming and kind of academic support for young people and youth, you also serve like a subpopulation of young people in your tech program, your Teen Tech Geeks coding program that you've referred to. So a number of those students are actually there kind of as part of a county diversion program. They're justice involved youth who are encouraged to build pro-social connections and get job training and do some community service. And we needed to figure out a way to, how do we just like take the existing metric that we have and make it work for you? But first, tell us a little bit about that group of students. What are some of the needs that they have, and what does success look like for that group?
This program ball started in 2019, right, like in the midst of right before the pandemic hit. So they
Sure.
create some challenges. But I think the needs are different. I think we have two staff members who are dedicated to the young people, who do a lot of like weekly check-ins with them, different things. And so we got somebody dedicated to the justice involved and the ones who are not. And so the justice involved have different needs. I mean, they got higher needs and different things of that nature. So we all make sure that success might look like different from different needs. And so you might dealing for anything. Parents might be struggling with addiction. These young people are just looking to be in a positive environment. Sometimes they haven't been in spaces that have high expectations for them. And so I think we want to make sure that we checking in weekly with them, because we know their needs might be different than some of the other youth that we work with that might not be just as involved. And so always keep it in mind, the more touch points we can have with them, Amal, and the more resources we could provide for them, as far as like maybe, figuring out how we give them groceries. Maybe they need a bus card. So really making sure we can have touch points with them is really important, to make sure that they get to meet their goals, and get a CODA certificate, get our probation on time, and also get back in school, or credit recovery and different things of that nature. And so we see a different need when we work with the just involved youth. And so when they come in the door, where they start off with might be different from somebody that's not just as involved. And so we keep that in mind with the expectations and goals with them as we do our weekly check-ins, and also like the trajectory of how long they might be a part of the program, different things of that nature.
Love that. Thanks, Kevin. And I think that it's really important to think about when, for us, then it's thinking about how our outcomes, how should we think about outcomes be differently for a justice involved youth who's, avoiding juvenile detention or some sort of incarceration, because this isn't a community-based alternative option to work with 30,000 feet and build, again, those skills and build community and a sense of safety. So for us, when we were looking for, we can't just use the same after-school metric that we had. We wanted to have something a little bit more tailored for this population, which Kevin just talked about. So our metric we call it ECO 008. We number all of our metrics with a lot of numbers and acronyms. And it's diversion programs with services for justice involved youth, leading to increased lifetime earnings. And in this case, what we used was a meta-analysis. There was a meta-analysis that we used, and I talked a little bit, I think Sam in the video also might have mentioned how that is another way that we can pull together evidence across a wide range of papers and try to find like an average of how effective an intervention is. So based on a Washington State Institute for Public Policy meta-analysis for diversion programs and using also local juvenile recidivism rates, we found the effect on recidivism to be 0.0346, which is to say an average of 3.46 percentage point reduction in recidivism due to programs like this, like diversion programs like this one. The meta-analysis combined nearly a dozen studies across a wide range of places, and also includes data from over 5,000 people, young people, from those different programs. So again, it's an average, in lieu of having that longitudinal data that we would all love to have and know exactly how the kids are doing, the young people are doing who left 30,000 feet. This is a way for us to have as clear an estimate as we can have. We only have a few minutes left. The time has flown. I know I've talked a lot, but I want to make sure that the last word is shared by Shakila and Kevin. We want to know, how can individuals, groups, and funders do to support your work? What would you like to see, Kevin? Let's start with Kevin. What would you like to see happen in our community to deepen the impact of your work?
Yeah, thank you, Amal. For first of all, I want to say thank you and all the Constellation team, the board of directors, are really seeing value in our work, and all not only the financial support, but I think some of the support around Beyond Dollars, which has been amazing for me and my co-founder Vanessa. Not only helping us build capacity, but also helping us with executive coaching to really sharpen our professional skill sets as we try to scale and build our work and deepen our work to maximize the impact within our community of the east side of St. Paul. Um, I would say that the work is hard. I mean, we've been doing it 2013. There's a lot of nuance in our work. I think that we want to make sure that we continue to get the support financially to do our work, to achieve economic and racial justice for our youth on the east side of St. Paul. So I think put my fundraiser hat on. It's two ways I think you can help us. Visit our website, donate, support our work financially at 30kfeet.art. Again, that's 30kfeet.art. Shameless plug. Then the other ways like volunteering. I think if you a community artist, you want to volunteer, you an artist, do art projects with the young people. If you want to help read, help support young people as they learn how to read. And I think and I think the other thing around, if you got background in code and everything like that, is volunteer. So those are the big two ways that I think that you can help us execute on our mission and vision. So, and I just want to say appreciate being on the call with Shaquila and Amal today. I think this was a rich and great discussion. I've learned a lot. And so I'm just happy to be a part of the Constellation family, and I'm happy to be
Mm,
able to join you all this morning.
yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Shakila, do you want to close? What are you hoping for, or responding to Kevin, or yeah, just close us out with what are your thoughts for how people can support you and the young people you serve?
Yeah, so echoing Kevin, we are definitely grateful for the constellation and all of your continued support. Um, it's meant the world to our organization or our program, and for featuring us in the recent annual report. We really appreciated that highlight. Um, and just because of your partnership in this work, we've been able to have many funders of all types and sizes, and the work that you're doing, we really find it the most impactful poverty fighting interventions, by thoughtfully using evidence, and it really just sets you apart. It really helps us meet the needs of our community. So we are very appreciative of the constellation. I think what we can do as a community or as a whole is just to be more understanding of what it's like to maneuver benefits, and to maintain those benefits. It's really hard for a lot of our clients, with just that thinking, that our clients are just receiving free money, and I really think that limits them. We got a lot of feedback that our clients really appreciate the support and motivation that not only the public health nurses but the social workers provide to them. While they're receiving benefits, you really create a relationship and a community for them to be able to see, like, outside of other communities sometimes, and in those opportunities with even connecting with local organizations, and programs with internships, and just kind of let them see that there's more out there, there's more available. So we really appreciate a lot of the organizations that open their doors to our interns, and um, gives them more opportunities. And I think, as I mentioned, I think it is a misconception that our clients, you know they don't do anything, but it's a lot for them to juggle, attending school, working, being a parent, maintaining all of the responsibilities that they may have, their own apartment. And I think that, it's hard for a lot of, older adults to do that, but, they're still getting to learn a lot about themselves and getting to learn their children. So, it takes a lot to maintain these benefits. So I would just, really encourage people to withhold that judgment, and give them grace and understanding, and just shift that thinking, and I think that would it would mean the world to our clients, but also help motivate them, and that's what that's what they really speak to. And then another way that I think that we can all support is support the policy work. And as I mentioned before, a lot of our waiver programs and a lot of our pilots, while informing our policy, we were able to see an increase in that financial piece, which makes a difference for our clients. And with that waiver to exclude their income and extend that age from 20 to maybe 24 or whatever it may be, that those kind of benefits really have a lasting effect on our clients. So I would just say, just support our policy, to be more open-minded and, withhold that judgment. And I think a lot of benefits would come to our youth and their children. I would like to see the work that Teen Hope does and 30,000 Feet does just continue to flourish and move this work that we do forward. And again, I appreciate the Constellation on just being so supportive to our program. And
It's our
it's
pleasure.
just grateful. It's just taking the time to learn more about our program. So I appreciate Kevin being here from 30,000 Feet to really advocate for your clients and your community, in the Constellation, and everyone who's here on this call, or just to leave and learn more. This is the first step, and we're very appreciative. We want to be a voice for our youth, and we want to see things move forward. So I thank everyone for their time.
Yeah.
And
We thank you
we
for
very much.
your time.
Yes. Yeah.
I have deep appreciation for both of you, for the work that you do every day, your teams that they do every day, and for being willing to share a little bit of that with us and going on this little evidence journey with us today. So thank you all so much. I know the folks will be able to reach out to you if they have interest in learning even more, Shakila. Know that I know that these organizations are probably happy to have you reach out to them and to see how you can directly support them, or reach out to us and we'll put you in touch. And just thank you for everything. That's our time with Shakila and Kevin. So thank you guys, and I'm gonna let y'all head off, and then I'll hand it over now to Andrew Dayton, our Constellation Fund founder and CEO, who is going to give our closing remarks. But thanks again to Kevin and Shakila. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much to today's panelists and speakers for sharing more about your powerful poverty fighting work. While the Impact Forum is a deep dive into the numbers, the stories from remarkable organizations like 30,000 Feet and Teen Hope, just two of more than 24 organizations that Constellation has the privilege to support, serves as a reminder of what every data point in this work represents: the improvement in the lives of our neighbors across the Twin Cities experiencing poverty. At Constellation, it's these stories behind the numbers that fuel our passion for evidence-driven philanthropy and underscore our belief that smart philanthropy is kind philanthropy. Because by following the evidence, we believe that we can amplify our giving to accomplish the most good. Now, as has been discussed throughout the program, Constellation's unique approach to following the evidence includes a rigorous benefit-cost analysis, which helps us better understand the poverty-fighting impact of a given nonprofit's work for every dollar spent. That analysis requires the careful use of evidence to project lifetime improvements to health and income. But we can't necessarily credit a single nonprofit with all of these improvements, since many of them might have happened even without the program support. Instead, we must also determine the counterfactual. which means using evidence to estimate what would have happened on average to the same individuals had they not received that nonprofit support. When we subtract the counterfactual, we are left with the long-term poverty-fighting impact that evidence indicates was the direct result of the nonprofit's work. Now, as you heard more about today, there is a huge amount of valuable evidence behind every aspect of this careful analysis. This includes an ever-growing body of peer-reviewed research on the long-term benefits of poverty-fighting programs, the best of which our team carefully synthesizes and builds into every evaluation. It also includes critical information from the nonprofits themselves, as well as from local demographic data sets, which allow us to further tailor our analyses by age, race, ethnicity, and beyond. All of this information is expertly assembled into customized metrics by our in-house economists and talented impact staff, and then weighed against other programmatic costs as well as key qualitative considerations to better understand the impact. If this sounds like a lot of work, it should, because it is. So why do we do it, you might ask? Because ultimately, we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about people. We're talking about lives. Because we need to have evidence to know when we should seek to bring an approach to scale or when we should move away from an approach and try something different. And because the power of this type of analytical approach has been harnessed in just about every other aspect of our modern lives, from retail to tech to finance to professional sports, not because it's easy, but because it works, which is the same reason we at Constellation are bringing analytical tools to bear in the fight against poverty, not because it's easy, but because we believe that a challenge with the magnitude and complexity of poverty demands not only our best intentions, but also our very best tools and insights. Are we seeking to understand the long-term impacts of the myriad different early childhood programs designed to uplift young people in our community? Then let's systematically build into all of our analysis the most relevant finding from America's best researchers. Are we seeking to understand the implications of the different approaches to addressing the health challenges facing our neighbors living in poverty in the Twin Cities? Then let's sharpen our analysis with all of the demographic insights most relevant to the specific populations being served. By leveraging the best available information, we can channel a growing body of relevant knowledge into tailor-made analyses that can power our decisions with objective insights to help maximize immediate and long-term impact. This is the work of the Constellation Fund, to use the best available information to make the best possible decisions in the fight against poverty in the Twin Cities, and to provide deeply impactful nonprofits with both financial resources and tailored capacity building support to help their work reach its full potential. It's work that is leading us to remarkable organizations creating real impact for real people. It's work that is pushing the conversation about what smart, evidence-driven philanthropy can look like in our community. And it's work that we will be amplifying and expanding significantly in the year ahead. Even with an ever-growing body of evidence at our fingertips, there is always more that we wish we knew about how best to fight poverty in our community. Sometimes even the best available information can still fall short of answering critical questions, which is why I'm excited to share that through a partnership with a private foundation with a shared passion for evidence-driven impact, we are in the process of launching a new research arm of the Constellation Fund, an initiative called Constellation Lab, or CoLab. CoLab is being built to conduct its own longitudinal studies on the measurable impact of established and emerging programs operating across the Twin Cities, employing the gold standards of research practices, randomized controlled trials, quasi-experimental studies, and more, to uncover the best possible evidence about what is working best in our collective fight against poverty. With a significant annual budget dedicated to community-informed research, CoLab will bring to the Twin Cities the unique ability to generate trustworthy insights that can further inform Constellation's own grant-making efforts, as well as the efforts of our nonprofit partners, peer philanthropic funders, and public policy makers. And this work will also bring to our community one of the most innovative and impactful research minds in America, as we've recently hired a remarkable executive director for CoLab, whose world-class training, expansive professional background, and relevant lived experience all serve as unique qualifications to help take our evidence-driven, poverty-fighting work to new heights. We are excited to share more about CoLab and to introduce you to its new leader in the stretch ahead. In the meantime, I'll close today's program on a personal note. A few weeks ago, my wife and I welcomed to the world our first child, a daughter, who already has her dad wrapped tightly around her little finger. And while there's so much that I don't yet know about this wonderful creature, it's all but certain that she will grow up with privilege. For that reason, I plan to pass along to her the expectation that my parents instilled in me to give back to my community. But I also hope to share with her an updated approach to giving that's rooted in something more powerful than her own privilege and perspectives. I hope to share with her an approach to giving that is rooted in evidence from her community about what is working best for her community. This is the approach that we're working to build at the Constellation Fund, a modern version of generosity for this generation and the next. And I'm so grateful to so many of you for your partnership in building this work together as we strive to find the stars and connect the dots in the fight against poverty here in the Twin Cities. Thank you for your time, your generosity, and for all that you do for our community.